The throne room stretched for nearly a kilometer, its walls covered in the banners of 1,000 conquered worlds. Emperor Exarath sat upon a seat carved from a single piece of black crystal, watching the holographic displays that floated before him. Each display showed a different star system, a different planet, a different species now under Dravixian rule. For 300 years, the Dravixian Empire had grown without stopping. Their warships were the most powerful in known space. Their armies had never lost a major battle. Their technology was so advanced that most species surrendered at the first sight of their fleet. Those who resisted were crushed within days. Zareth smiled as he reviewed the latest reports. 5 new worlds had submitted to Imperial authority this month alone. The tribute flowing into the Empire's treasury had reached record levels. Everything was perfect. Everything was as it should be. Commander Velrix entered the throne room. His 4 arms crossed over his chest in the traditional salute. His scaled skin was deep purple, marked with the silver scars of countless battles. He was the Empire's greatest military leader, the one they sent when absolute victory was required. "My Emperor," Velrix said, his voice deep and confident. "The scout ships have returned from the Outer Rim. They have found something interesting." Zareth leaned forward. "Tell me, a new world, untouched by any known civilization. The inhabitants call it Earth. They are still primitive, barely capable of traveling within their own solar system. They have no faster-than-light technology, no energy shields, no plasma weapons. They are completely defenseless." Af. Dod. On. The Emperor's eyes gleamed. "Resources? Abundant. The planet has vast oceans, dense forests, and mineral deposits throughout its system. The population is around 8 billion. They would make excellent workers once properly trained." Zareth stood, his robes flowing around him like liquid shadow. "How many ships will you need?" Velrix's mandibles clicked together in what might have been a laugh. "For such primitives? The full armada would be excessive, but it will send the proper message. 500 warships arriving in their skies will break their spirit before a single shot is fired. They will surrender immediately. Then take the armada. Show these humans the price of existing in space claimed by the Dravixian Empire. Give them the standard terms. Number, 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 number. It will be done, my Emperor." 10,000 light-years away, Captain Ji-hoon Kim floated in zero gravity, checking the sensor arrays on Earth's primary orbital defense station. The work was routine, something he had done 1,000 times before. Outside the window, Earth turned slowly below him, blue and green and beautiful. Ji-hoon had been born in Seoul, but he had spent most of his adult life in space. He loved it up here, away from the crowds and noise of the surface. Space was quiet. Space was peaceful. Space made sense. His communicator beeped. "Captain Kim, we're getting some strange readings at the edge of the solar system. Can you take a look?" Ji-hoon pushed off the wall and floated back to the main control room. He pulled himself into his seat and brought up the long-range sensors. At first, he saw nothing unusual. Then he adjusted the filters, and his blood went cold. "That can't be right," he whispered. "What is it, Captain?" asked Lieutenant Chen, the station's communications officer. "There are ships coming, a lot of ships. They just appeared at the edge of the system, beyond Neptune's orbit." "Pirates?" Chen asked, but his voice was uncertain. "Pirates had small ships, maybe 5 or 6 vessels at most. No, these are big, really big, and there are hundreds of them." Ji-hoon's fingers flew across the controls, gathering as much data as possible. The ships were unlike anything in Earth's databases. Their energy signatures were massive, their technology clearly far beyond anything humanity had developed. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command, right now." Within minutes, every defense station, every government building, every military base on Earth was receiving the same data. An alien fleet was approaching. They would reach Earth in 72 hours. Then the message came. It broadcast on every frequency, in every language spoken on Earth. The translation was perfect, which was somehow more frightening than the words themselves. Primitive species of the planet you call Earth, you have been discovered by the Dravixian Empire, rightful rulers of this region of space. You will submit to imperial authority. You will provide tribute. You will accept Dravixian governance. If you comply, your people will be treated with the mercy appropriate for lesser species. If you resist, your world will be reduced to ash, and your species will be eliminated. You have 72 hours to surrender. Choose wisely. The message ended. Silence filled the control room. Lieutenant Chen spoke first, his voice barely above a whisper. What do we do? Ji-hoon stared at the screen, watching the fleet of alien warships moving steadily toward Earth. 500 ships. 500 vessels that could probably destroy Earth's entire defense network without slowing down. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries, had imagined meeting other intelligent species with hope and excitement. This was not what anyone had imagined. We fight, Ji-hoon said quietly. Fight? Chen turned to look at him. Captain, we don't have anything that could even scratch those ships. Our missiles are primitive compared to their technology. Our defense platforms were built to stop asteroids and rogue satellites, not alien warships. Fighting is suicide. Maybe, Ji-hoon agreed. But surrendering means becoming slaves. It means letting them take our world without even trying to stop them. I didn't join Earth Defense to hand over our planet to the first aliens who showed up with bigger guns. He opened a communication channel to Earth Command. This is Captain Ji-hoon Kim, Orbital Station Alpha. I'm requesting immediate leave to report for special assignment. We need to prepare for what's coming. The voice that answered was tired and frightened. Approved, Captain. Return to Earth immediately. Report to Special Projects Division. Authorization code is being sent now. Ji-hoon frowned. Special Projects Division? He had never heard of it. But then again, he had a feeling that the next 72 hours were going to be full of surprises. As his shuttle detached from the station and began its descent toward Earth, Ji-hoon looked back at the planet that had given birth to his species. Somewhere down there, 8 billion people were learning that they were not alone in the universe. And somewhere out in the dark between the stars, an armada was coming to take everything away. But Ji-hoon Kim had never been good at accepting defeat. And he had a feeling that humanity had a few surprises of its own. The Special Projects Division facility was buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, protected by layers of rock, steel, and security systems that most governments did not even know existed. Ji-hoon rode the elevator down for what felt like 10 minutes, descending deeper and deeper into the earth. When the doors finally opened, he found himself in a massive underground complex. Hundreds of people moved through corridors that stretched in every direction. Scientists, engineers, military personnel, all of them moving with urgent purpose. Whatever this place was, it had been preparing for something big. A woman in an admiral's uniform waited for him. She was in her 50s, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many difficult decisions. Captain Kim, I'm Admiral Park Seo-yeon. Welcome to humanity's last hope. Ji-hoon saluted. Admiral, what is this place? Croup, walk with me, she said. We don't have much time, so I'll be direct. 30 years ago, a group of scientists and military leaders asked themselves a question. What if first contact with aliens goes badly? What if they're hostile? Earth's conventional military could handle threats from other humans. But what about threats from the stars? They walked through a security checkpoint, then another. Each door required multiple authorizations. Most people thought we were paranoid. Admiral Park continued. They said we were wasting resources on an imaginary threat. But we kept working. We built this facility. We recruited the best minds from every nation. And we started Project Leviathan. Project Leviathan? Ji-hoon asked. Admiral Park stopped in front of a massive window that looked out into a chamber so large that Ji-hoon could not see the far wall. "Look, Ada." Ji-hoon looked. At first, he could not understand what he was seeing. It looked like a structure. Some kind of building, maybe, floating in the darkness of the chamber. Then his brain finally processed the scale, and he realized what he was looking at. It was a ship, a warship so massive that it made aircraft carriers look like toys. Its hull was dark gray, covered in angular armor plates and weapon systems. Lights glowed along its surface like the windows of a floating city. The ship was shaped like a wedge, with a sharp prow and sweeping wings that contained massive engines. "That's impossible," Ji-hoon whispered. "How big is it?" 80 kilometers long, 20 kilometers wide at its widest point. Mass equivalent to a small moon. It has more interior space than most cities, and it's the most powerful weapon humanity has ever created. Ji-hoon could not look away. How? How did we build this? The technology alone. We didn't build it on Earth, Admiral Park explained. We constructed it in a hidden facility beyond Neptune's orbit, where no one would see it. We used AI-assisted design to solve problems that human engineers couldn't crack. We developed new physics, new materials, new everything. This ship represents 30 years of humanity's best work. What does it do? Admiral Park touched a control panel, and the lights in the chamber brightened. Ji-hoon could now see the weapons mounted along Leviathan's hull. They were unlike any weapons he had ever seen. Conventional weapons wouldn't work on a ship this size. The recoil alone would tear it apart. So we developed something different. Gravity weapons. They create localized gravitational fields that can crush, tear, or fling targets at relativistic speeds. The main cannon can generate a temporary black hole. Ji-hoon felt dizzy. That's not possible. It wasn't. Until we made it possible. The ship is powered by controlled singularity reactors. Tiny black holes, kept stable and harvested for energy. It generates more power than some stars. And it needs that power, because its shields, weapons, and engines all operate on principles that break what we thought were the laws of physics. They walked along the observation window, and Ji-hoon saw people working inside the ship through distant portals. How many crew does it need? Only 200. Most of the ship is automated, controlled by an AI system we call Prometheus. It's the most advanced artificial intelligence ever created. It can process combat data, manage ship systems, and make tactical decisions faster than any human. But we still need human command staff. Which is why you're here. Ji-hoon turned to face her. Me? You have the highest tactical scores in Earth defense. You think creatively, under pressure. You don't panic. And according to your psychological profile, you have the ability to work with AI systems without letting them make all the decisions. Prometheus is brilliant, but it needs human judgment to guide it. The Dravixians have 500 ships, Ji-hoon said. We have one. Yes, but our one ship was designed specifically for this scenario. Prometheus has run 10,000 combat simulations against numerically superior forces. In 73% of those simulations, Leviathan survives and wins. Those are the best odds we're going to get. Ji-hoon looked at the massive warship again. A part of him wanted to refuse, to say this was insane, that one ship could not possibly stand against an armada. But another part of him, the part that had joined Earth defense in the first place, knew that Admiral Park was right. This was humanity's only chance. What about the other 27% of simulations? He asked. Admiral Park's expression did not change. In those scenarios, Leviathan is destroyed, and Earth is conquered. But at least we go down fighting. At least we show these Dravixians that humanity doesn't surrender without making them pay a price. Ji-hoon thought about his family and soul. He thought about the 8 billion people on Earth who were depending on him. He thought about Commander Velrix and his armada, confident in their superiority, expecting humanity to roll over without a fight. When do I start? Now, We're activating Leviathan in 6 hours. You need to meet your crew, familiarize yourself with the ship's systems, and get Prometheus online. The Dravixians will be here in 48 hours. We need to be ready. They took a transport pod through a tunnel that led from the underground facility to a spaceport hidden in a nearby valley. A shuttle waited to take Ji-hoon to the facility beyond Neptune. The journey took 12 hours, even at the shuttle's maximum speed. Ji-hoon spent the time reviewing files on Leviathan's systems, trying to absorb 30 years of research and development in half a day. It was impossible, but he tried anyway. When they finally arrived at the construction facility, Ji-hoon saw Leviathan in space for the first time. It was even more massive than he had imagined. The ship floated in the darkness like a sleeping giant, its hull reflecting the distant light of the sun. The shuttle docked in one of Leviathan's hangar bays. Ji-hoon and his crew of 199 others boarded the ship that would either save Earth or die trying. As Ji-hoon walked through Leviathan's corridors toward the command center, he heard a voice in his ear. It was calm, measured, and somehow both mechanical and organic at the same time. "Welcome aboard, Captain Kim. I am Prometheus. I have been waiting for you. Shall we prepare to defend our world?" Ji-hoon smiled despite his fear. "Yes. Prometheus. Let's show these Dravixians what humanity can do." Commander Velrix stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and watched as his armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 500 warships appeared in perfect formation, a display of military power that had broken the will of countless species. "Magnificent," he said, looking at the holographic display that showed all 500 ships in position. "Has there ever been a more beautiful sight?" His second officer, a younger Dravixian named Kelrax, clicked his mandibles in agreement. "The humans will see this and know that resistance is futile. Their surrender should come within the hour." Velrix nodded. He had conducted dozens of conquest operations, and they always followed the same pattern. The primitives would see the armada. Their leaders would argue briefly about whether to fight, and then fear would win. They always surrendered. Always. "Begin the demonstration broadcast," Velrix ordered. On every screen, every device, every communication channel that humans used, the same images appeared. Planets burning, cities in ruins. Species brought to their knees before Dravixian power. 300 years of conquest, condensed into 10 minutes of undeniable evidence that resistance was pointless. The broadcast ended with a simple message: "Surrender now, or become like them." Velrix watched Earth through his view screen. It was a pretty planet, he admitted. Blue and green, covered in life. It would be a shame to burn it. But he would, if necessary. The Empire demanded obedience, and he was the instrument of that demand. "Sir, we're detecting Earth's defense network activating," Kelrax reported. "Orbital platforms, missile batteries, and approximately 200 small warships taking defensive positions." Velrix laughed, a sound like grinding metal. 200 ships? Against 500 Dravixian warships? Do they think we're going to be impressed by those toys? Perhaps they're simply making a gesture, sir. Showing their people that they tried before surrendering. Perhaps, scan their vessels. I want to know what kind of weapons they have. Not that it matters, but I'm curious. The tactical officer worked at his station for several minutes, then looked up with confusion. "Sir, their technology is extremely primitive. Chemical rockets, nuclear weapons, energy shields that wouldn't stop a child's toy. These ships are barely capable of spaceflight." Velrix felt a twinge of disappointment. He had hoped for at least some challenge, some reason to demonstrate his tactical brilliance. But this was going to be a massacre, not a battle. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're detecting an unusual energy signature near Neptune's orbit. It's quite large. Define large. The energy output is significant. Possibly a space station or mining facility. Should we investigate?" Velrix waved a hand dismissively. "Irrelevant. Whatever it is, It poses no threat. Continue with the operation. Move the fleet toward Earth. Full battle formation. I want these humans to see death approaching and know they have no hope. The armada began to move. 500 ships advancing through the solar system, like a wave of destruction. They passed Jupiter, then Mars, getting closer to Earth with every hour. Velrix watched the human planet grow larger on his screens and felt the familiar satisfaction of inevitable victory. On Earth, chaos spread like wildfire. The Dravixian broadcast had been seen by billions. Panic gripped cities. Some people rioted. Some prayed. Some simply stood and stared at the sky, waiting for the end. In government chambers around the world, leaders argued. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to fight, even knowing it was hopeless. A few knew about Leviathan and said nothing, bound by oaths of secrecy that would last until the ship revealed itself. Earth's conventional fleet moved into position between the planet and the approaching armada. 200 ships against 500. Every captain, every crew member, knew they were about to die. But they had volunteered anyway, because someone had to buy time for whatever secret weapon Earth supposedly had. Admiral Park watched from Earth Command, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. She had communication links to every defense platform, every ship, every weapon system Earth possessed, and she had a direct link to Leviathan. "Captain Kim," she said quietly. Beyond Neptune's orbit, in the construction facility that had been hidden for 30 years, Leviathan's engines came to life. The singularity reactors spun up, generating power that made nearby sensors scream warnings. The massive ship began to move. Slowly at first, then faster. Prometheus, the AI that controlled most of Leviathan's systems, spoke to Ji-hoon in the command center. All systems operational. Gravity weapons charged. Shields at maximum. Course set for Earth intercept. Estimated arrival at engagement range. 2 hours. Ji-hoon sat in the captain's chair, surrounded by holographic displays showing everything from ship status to enemy positions. His crew worked at their stations, running final checks on systems that had never been used in actual combat. "Prometheus," Ji-hoon said. "What are our chances?" The AI was silent for a moment. "Calculating. Against 500 warships. Conventional tactical analysis suggests our chances of survival are low. However, conventional tactical analysis did not anticipate a ship like Leviathan. We are operating in unknown territory, Captain. The Dravixians have never faced anything like us. That uncertainty works in our favor." Not the most encouraging answer. I am programmed to be honest, not encouraging. However, I will add this. Humanity has always excelled at doing the impossible when necessary. Perhaps this is one of those times. Ji-hoon smiled despite his fear. "All right then. Take us in. Maximum acceleration. I want to reach Earth before the Dravixians start their attack." Leviathan surged forward. Its gravity drives bending space around it. The massive ship moved faster than anything its size had any right to move, crossing the solar system at speeds that should have been impossible. On the Eternal Dominion, alarms suddenly blared. "Sir!" the tactical officer shouted. "That energy signature near Neptune just moved. It's accelerating at impossible speeds." Velrix spun to face the display. "Show me." The holographic screen updated, and Velrix felt something he had not felt in decades: fear. The object approaching from Neptune was not a station. It was a ship, a single ship, but bigger than anything in the Imperial databases. Bigger than 10 Dravixian battleships combined, and it was moving toward them fast. "What is that?" Kelrax whispered. "I don't know," Velrix admitted. "Scan it. Give me everything. Size, weapons, shields, everything." The sensors worked frantically, gathering data. When the results came back, Kelrax's face went pale beneath his scales. "Sir, the ship is 80 kilometers long. Its power output exceeds our entire fleet combined. Its shields are reading at levels we didn't think were possible. And its weapons. Sir, I don't recognize the weapon signatures. They're not plasma. Not missiles. Not anything in our databases. Velrix stared at the approaching vessel. For 300 years, the Dravixian Empire had been the strongest power in known space. They had crushed every enemy, conquered every world, won every battle. And they had done it because they had the best technology, the most powerful ships, the most advanced weapons. But looking at that massive human warship approaching through the darkness of space, Velrix suddenly wondered if the Empire had been wrong about everything. Leviathan entered the inner solar system like a storm made of metal and fury. Every sensor on every ship, human and Dravixian alike, tracked its approach. Ji-hoon stood in the command center, watching the enemy fleet spread out before him like stars in the void. Prometheus, he said calmly. Enemy positions? The AI's voice filled the command center. The Dravixian fleet has broken into 3 main battle groups. Group Alpha consists of 150 ships, positioned directly ahead. Group Beta has 200 ships flanking to our left. Group Gamma has 150 ships flanking to our right. They are attempting to surround us. Standard Imperial tactics, Ji-hoon observed. They want to attack from all sides at once, overwhelming us with firepower. Correct. Commander Velrix is following established Dravixian combat doctrine. Against a conventional fleet, this formation would be devastatingly effective. But we're not a conventional fleet, are we? No, Captain. We are something they have never encountered before. On the Eternal Dominion, Velrix made his decision. This human ship was large and powerful, but it was still just one ship. Numbers would win the day. Numbers always won. All ships, he commanded. Battle Group Alpha. You will engage the human vessel directly. Beta and Gamma. Move to flanking positions and prepare for coordinated strike. We will hit this monster from 3 directions simultaneously. No ship, no matter how large, can withstand the combined firepower of 500 Dravixian warships. His fleet moved into position with practiced precision. 300 years of conquest had taught the Dravixians how to win battles. This would be no different. Sir, Kelrak said nervously, perhaps we should attempt communication first. Learn more about their capabilities before engaging. Velrix's mandibles clicked in anger. Communication? We gave them the chance to surrender. They chose resistance. Now, they will learn why resistance is always futile. All ships, open fire. Battle Group Alpha fired first. 50 ships unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Plasma beams bright enough to melt mountains. Missiles carrying warheads that could destroy cities. Energy pulses designed to tear through armor and shields. Enough firepower to obliterate a planet's surface struck Leviathan in a massive coordinated strike. The human warship's shields flared brilliant white, absorbing the impact. The light was so bright that it hurt to look at, even through filtered view screens. When the light faded, Leviathan remained, undamaged, still advancing. Impossible, Velrix whispered. On Leviathan's bridge, Ji-hoon felt the ship shudder under the impact. Lights flickered. Alarms beeped. But the shields held. Shield strength at 87%, Prometheus reported. No structural damage. We can sustain approximately 6 more strikes of that magnitude before shield failure. Then we'd better make sure they don't get 6 more shots, Ji-hoon said. Target Battle Group Alpha. Fire gravity weapons. Pattern Delta. Firing. Along Leviathan's hull, weapon ports opened. Energy built. Reality itself seeming to bend around the massive ship. Then, the gravity weapons fired. Space twisted. 20 Dravixian ships on the flanks of Battle Group Alpha suddenly found themselves caught in artificial gravity wells. The gravitational force increased to impossible levels in seconds. Hulls designed to withstand plasma, fire, and missile impacts were not designed to resist the pull of a black hole. The ships crumpled like paper cups, their crews dying instantly as the vessels collapsed into balls of compressed metal. Other ships were affected differently. The gravity weapons created directional fields, and 15 ships were suddenly accelerated to near-light speed, flung away from the battle like stones from a sling. The crews aboard those ships were pulverized by the sudden acceleration, dead before their ships finished tumbling into the dark. In less than 10 seconds, Battle Group Alpha had lost 35 ships. "Regroup!" Velrix shouted. "All units. Evasive maneuvers. Don't bunch up. Spread formation." But the Dravixian fleet had spent 300 years fighting enemies who used conventional weapons. Their tactics, their formations, their entire way of fighting was designed for plasma and missiles and energy beams. Gravity weapons were something new, something they had no defense against. Battle groups Beta and Gamma moved in, attacking from the sides. 300 ships poured fire into Leviathan from multiple angles. The human warship disappeared behind a wall of explosions and energy. Ji-hoon gripped his chair as the ship shook violently. "Shield status? Shields at 40% and falling," Prometheus reported, its voice still calm despite the chaos. "Taking damage to outer armor on decks, 30 through 50. Hull breaches in secondary sections. Compensating. Return fire. All weapons. Free targeting." "Prometheus, I need you to identify the enemy command ship. That's our priority target." "Acknowledged." "Analyzing fleet patterns. The flagship is designated Eternal Dominion. Positioned at the center of Battle Group Beta. Probability 93% that Commander Velrix is aboard that vessel. Can we reach it? Not without going through 100 ships first." Ji-hoon watched the tactical display, seeing how the Dravixian ships were positioned. They were good, he had to admit. Disciplined, coordinated, professional. But they were also following predictable patterns, doing what their training and doctrine told them to do. "Prometheus, how many missiles do we have?" "Conventional nuclear fusion missiles, 4,000. Gravity mine projectiles, 800. Launch all gravity mines. I want them spread throughout the enemy formation. Detonate on my mark." "Captain, that will deplete our gravity mine reserves entirely." "I know. Do it." Leviathan launched 800 small projectiles, each one containing a miniature version of the gravity weapon technology. They spread through the Dravixian fleet like seeds on the wind, too small and too fast for the enemy ships to intercept them all. Velrix watched in confusion as the small objects passed through his fleet. "What are those? Missiles? Sensors? Identify those objects." "Unknown type, sir. They're too small to be standard missiles. They're spreading throughout the fleet. Destroy them. All ships, point defense systems, target those. Now, Prometheus." Ji-hoon said. 800 gravity mines detonated simultaneously throughout the Dravixian fleet. Each mine created a localized gravity well. Not powerful enough to crush ships, but strong enough to pull them off course, to disrupt formations, to create chaos. Ships collided with each other. Weapons fire meant for Leviathan hit friendly vessels instead. The carefully coordinated attack fell apart into confusion and disaster. "All weapons, concentrate fire on the enemy flagship," Ji-hoon ordered. Leviathan's main cannon fired for the first time. The weapon created a temporary black hole, a pinpoint of infinite gravity that lasted for only a fraction of a second. But a fraction of a second was enough. The gravitational beam tore through space, ripping through 3 Dravixian ships that were between Leviathan and the Eternal Dominion. The ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, torn apart at the molecular level by tidal forces beyond imagining. The beam struck the Eternal Dominion's shields, and the flagship's defenses screamed in protest. Velrix was thrown from his command chair as his ship shook like a leaf in a storm. "Shield failure!" Kelrax shouted. "Hull breaches on multiple decks. Engineering reports catastrophic damage." Velrix pulled himself up, looking at the tactical display. He had started this battle with 500 ships. In less than 2 hours of fighting, he had lost more than 200. 200 ships destroyed or crippled by a single human vessel. Around him, his fleet was dying. Leviathan continued firing, its weapons tearing through Dravixian warships like a hammer through glass. The human ship was damaged, its armor scarred and broken in places. But it was still fighting, still winning. "Sir, we must retreat," Kelrak said desperately. "We cannot win this battle." "The Dravixian Empire does not retreat," Velrix said, but his voice lacked conviction. He looked at the human warship on his screen, at the massive vessel that had done the impossible. Pride warred with survival instinct, and pride won. "All remaining ships," Velrix commanded. "Full speed toward the enemy vessel. All power to engines. We're going to ram that thing and destroy it with our own ships. If we cannot defeat it with weapons, we'll destroy it with our hulls." "Sir, that's suicide." "It's victory or death," Velrix said. "The Empire demands no less. All ships, forward." The remaining Dravixian ships, nearly 150 vessels, turned and accelerated toward Leviathan at maximum speed. It was a desperate move. A final gambit born of pride and desperation. In Leviathan's command center, alarms blared. "Captain, all enemy ships are on collision course," Prometheus reported. "If they reach us, the combined impact will breach our hull and destroy the ship." Ji-hoon stared at the tactical display, watching the enemy fleet charging toward them like a wave of metal and fire. He had one option left. One weapon that had never been tested. One desperate gambit of his own. "Prometheus," he said quietly. "Activate the warp disruptor." "Captain, that weapon is experimental. It has never been used. The effects are unpredictable. I know. But if we don't use it now, we're dead anyway. Activate it." "Acknowledged." Activating warp disruptor. "May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on us all." Space itself screamed. That was the only way Ji-hoon could describe what happened when the warp disruptor activated. Reality bent, twisted, and seemed to tear at the edges. A massive wave of energy expanded from Leviathan in all directions, invisible but undeniable, changing the laws of physics in a sphere thousands of kilometers wide. The charging Dravixian ships hit the disruption field at full speed. Their engines, designed to push them through normal space and allow faster-than-light travel, suddenly encountered physics that no longer made sense. Velocity limits appeared, where none had existed. Movement became restricted. The ships tried to maintain their acceleration, and their engines couldn't handle the contradiction. 90 vessels exploded simultaneously as their power cores overloaded. The explosions lit up the darkness of space like 1,000 new suns being born and dying in the same instant. The remaining ships tumbled out of control, their engines dead, their systems failing, drifting helplessly in the void. On the Eternal Dominion, Velrix felt his ship shudder and die around him. The lights went out. Gravity disappeared. Emergency systems kicked in, providing dim red lighting but nothing else. His flagship had been reduced to a dead hulk floating in space. "Kelrax," Velrix called out in the darkness. "Status report. Main power offline," his second officer replied, his voice shaking. "Engines destroyed. Weapons, systems non-functional. Life support running on emergency reserves. Sir, we're dead in space. We're completely helpless." Velrix floated in zero gravity, looking out the viewport at the ruins of his fleet. 500 ships had entered this system. Now he could count perhaps a dozen intact vessels, all of them crippled and drifting. The rest were debris fields and expanding clouds of gas that had once been proud warships. A communication screen flickered to life, powered by emergency batteries. The face that appeared was human. Asian features, dark eyes, young, but bearing the weight of impossible decisions. Captain Ji-hoon Kim, of the vessel Leviathan. "Commander Velrix," the human said, "your fleet is destroyed. Your flagship is disabled. By all rights, I should finish you off right now. That's what you would do to me, isn't it? Velric said nothing. What could he say? The human was right. But I'm not going to do that, Jihoon continued. Instead, I'm going to offer you something your empire has never offered any of its victims. A choice. A choice? Velrix repeated bitterly. What choice does a defeated warrior have? Except death. The choice to live. The choice to go home. I'm going to let you and your surviving crew repair your ships enough to limp back to Dravixian space. I'm going to let you tell your emperor exactly what happened here. And I'm going to give you a message to deliver. Despite everything, Velrix felt curiosity stir. What message? Tell your emperor this. Earth is off limits. The human species is off limits. And if the Dravixian Empire ever tries to conquer another world again, if you ever threaten another innocent species, Leviathan will come to their defense. We built one ship like this. We can build more. Tell him that humanity is not interested in conquest, but we will defend the defenseless. Tell him the age of easy empire is over. Velrix stared at the screen. You would let us live? After everything we did? After we came here? To enslave your world? Yes, Jihoon said simply. Because killing you serves no purpose except revenge. And revenge won't make the galaxy a better place. But letting you live, letting you go home and tell your story, that might actually change things. Fear of Leviathan might stop your empire from doing to others what you tried to do to us. You are either very wise or very foolish, Velrix said quietly. Maybe both, Jihoon admitted. But I'd rather be foolish and merciful than wise and cruel. One last thing. Commander, I want you to understand something. We didn't build Leviathan because we're naturally violent or warlike. We built it because we were afraid. Afraid that the first aliens we met would be exactly like you turned out to be. We built this ship not to conquer, but to survive. And yet you created the most powerful weapon I have ever seen. Yes. Because sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be capable of winning war. But being capable of war doesn't mean we want it. Remember that. When you tell your emperor about today, the communication ended. Velrix floated in the darkness of his dead ship, thinking about the human's words. In 300 years of conquest, the Dravixian Empire had never shown mercy. Defeated enemies were enslaved or destroyed. Surrender meant servitude. Resistance meant annihilation. That was the way of empire, the way things had always been. But the humans had won, had held the power of life and death over him, and had chosen mercy. What kind of species did that? What kind of warriors showed compassion to those who had come to destroy them? Over the next 3 days, human ships approached the crippled Dravixian vessels. Not warships, but repair ships, supply vessels, medical craft. They provided the Dravixians with parts, with food, with medicine. They helped repair engines just enough to allow the survivors to make the journey home. They even recovered bodies from the destroyed ships so that the Dravixian dead could be returned to their families. Velrix watched all of this with growing confusion and something that might have been shame. His empire had come here to take everything. The humans had won, and instead of taking, they gave. Instead of enslaving, they freed. Instead of destroying, they healed. When the repairs were complete, the surviving Dravixian ships limped out of Earth's solar system. Velrix stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion one last time, looking back at the blue and green planet that had broken his fleet. Somewhere in orbit around that world, Leviathan floated, watching them leave, making sure they actually departed. Set course for home, Velrix ordered. And Kelrax, begin compiling a full report on everything that happened here. The Emperor needs to know the truth, no matter how bitter it tastes. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light, carried by traders and refugees and spies. The Dravixian Armada, undefeated for 3 centuries, had been destroyed by a single human ship. The story grew with each retelling, becoming legend, becoming myth, becoming a warning. Species that had lived under Dravixian rule began to whisper about rebellion. If the mighty empire could be broken, then perhaps freedom was possible after all. Perhaps the age of empires was ending. On Earth, Ji-hoon watched the Dravixian ships disappear from his sensors. Leviathan hung in orbit, its scarred armor already being repaired by swarms of construction drones. The massive warship had done what it was built to do: protect Earth and prove that humanity could stand against the dangers of the galaxy. Admiral Park contacted him from Earth Command. "Captain Kim, you're being called a hero. Every government on Earth wants to give you medals. You saved 8 billion lives." "I just did my job," Ji-hoon said. "Prometheus and the crew deserve as much credit as I do. Maybe more." "Ah," Ji-hoon said. Ji-hoon said. Ji-hoon said. Ji-hoon said. "Perhaps. But you made the crucial decisions. You chose mercy when you could have chosen vengeance. That matters. What happens now, Admiral? The Dravixians will tell their empire about Leviathan. Word will spread. We won't be an unknown quantity anymore." "I know. That's why we're already building more ships like Leviathan. Not to conquer, but to defend. Earth is going to become a defender of other species. A shield against empire. We have the technology, the resources, and now we have the reputation. Other worlds will look to us for protection." "That sounds like we're creating our own empire." Admiral Park was quiet for a moment. "That's the danger, isn't it? We have to be very careful not to become what we just defeated. Power corrupts, and we now have more power than any species in known space. So what's the answer? I don't know. But I think it starts with people like you, Ji-hoon. People who choose mercy over vengeance. People who understand that having power doesn't mean you should use it for everything. We need to build a future where strength is used to protect, not to dominate." 3 months later, Ji-hoon stood in a conference room on Earth, facing representatives from a dozen different alien species. These were beings whose worlds had suffered under Dravixian rule, or who feared they would be next. They had come to Earth seeking alliance, seeking protection, seeking to understand how humanity had achieved the impossible. "Captain Kim," one of the delegates said, a being with 4 eyes and crystalline skin, "our people would like to request Earth's protection. The Dravixian Empire is collapsing into civil war, but other empires still exist. Other threats remain. Will Leviathan defend us, as it defended Earth?" Ji-hoon looked at the assembled delegates, seeing hope and fear in equal measure on their alien faces. This was a crossroads. A moment that would define humanity's future among the stars. "Earth will help you," he said carefully. "But not by becoming your protectors. Not by putting Leviathan in orbit around your worlds and telling you that you're safe because we say so. That's just another form of empire, and we won't do that. Then how will you help us? We'll teach you. We'll share our technology, our methods, our thinking. We'll help you build your own defenses. Leviathan exists because we refused to be helpless, because we took responsibility for our own survival. We want to help other species do the same thing, not to rule the galaxy, but to make sure no one else can rule it either." Another delegate, a being that looked like a floating collection of tentacles, spoke up. "But what if we're attacked before we can build such defenses? What if Empire comes tomorrow?" Ji-hoon smiled. "Then Leviathan will come, and if necessary, we'll bring its sister ships with it. We're building more vessels like it, not to threaten anyone, but to ensure that aggression is never rewarded. Think of it as insurance. We hope we'll never need to use it, but it's there if we do." The delegates talked among themselves in a dozen different languages. Finally, the crystalline being spoke again. "This is acceptable. More than acceptable. You offer partnership instead of protection. Strength instead of submission. We agree to your terms. Over the next year, the galaxy changed. The Dravixian Empire fractured into a dozen smaller states, fighting among themselves. Former subject species claimed their independence. New alliances formed. And Earth, the primitive species that nobody had known about a year ago, became an unexpected power broker in galactic politics. But Earth did not build an empire. Instead, it built a network of allies, teaching defensive technology, sharing knowledge, helping other species stand on their own. 5 more Leviathan-class ships were constructed, each one named after a concept rather than a conqueror. Justice, freedom, hope, unity, and peace. Jihoon declined command of the second Leviathan. He had spent enough time in war. Instead, he became an ambassador, traveling to different worlds, teaching defensive tactics and strategic thinking. Prometheus came with him. The AI installed in a mobile android body, so it could interact with the species they visited. On a warm evening on a planet called Vexar, Jihoon stood on a balcony looking up at unfamiliar stars. Prometheus stood beside him, its mechanical body designed to be non-threatening, almost friendly-looking. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Jihoon asked. "Showing mercy to Velrix? Building more ships? Trying to change the galaxy?" "I am an AI," Prometheus said. "I calculate probabilities, not morality. But I can tell you this. In every simulation I have run, of galactic politics, the scenarios where Earth chose your path result in greater long-term stability and less overall suffering than scenarios where Earth chose conquest or isolation. You planted a seed, Captain. Whether it grows into something beautiful or something terrible depends on the choices humanity continues to make." "No pressure then," Jihoon said with a laugh. "None whatsoever," Prometheus agreed, and Jihoon could swear he heard humor in the AI's voice. Far away, in Dravixian space, former Commander Velrix stood before the Emperor, delivering his report. He told the truth about Leviathan, about the battle, about humanity's unexpected mercy. The Emperor listened in silence, his face unreadable. When Velrix finished, the Emperor spoke. "You lost 500 ships to a single enemy vessel, Emperor." "Yes, my Emperor. By all rights, you should be executed for this failure." "Yes, my Emperor. But you brought back the truth. You warned us about a threat we did not know existed. And perhaps most importantly, you showed us that our way of doing things has created an enemy we cannot defeat." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. "The age of easy conquest is over, Velrix. We must adapt or die. Perhaps the humans have taught us a lesson more valuable than a victory. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived among the stars not as conquerors, but as defenders. Not as rulers, but as teachers. And in the darkness of space, 6 massive ships stood ready to ensure that freedom remained possible, that justice had teeth, and that mercy was not mistaken for weakness. Leviathan and its sisters watched over a changing galaxy, silent guardians of a new age, an age where power served peace instead of conquest, an age where humanity had shown the stars something they had forgotten, that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice not to.
The galactic SOS reached Earth. What answered was not salvation, Doctor. Yuki Tanaka had been staring at the same screen for 6 hours. Her eyes burned and her coffee had gone cold 3 times, but she could not look away. The pattern in the cosmic radiation was wrong. Not random noise like it should be. Something else. Something deliberate. "Run it again," she said to her assistant Marcus Webb. They were alone in the monitoring station, floating in the observation module that orbited Neptune. Outside the windows, the ice giant turned slowly, beautiful and indifferent. Marcus typed commands into his console. The pattern appeared again on the main screen. Waves of radiation that pulsed in sequences too regular to be natural. It had taken weeks to notice, months to confirm. And now, after running every possible analysis, Yuki knew what she was looking at. "It's a message," she whispered. Marcus looked up sharply. "You're sure?" 99%. Yuki pulled up another screen showing mathematical models. These intervals, they're not random. They're structured. Like language. The next 3 weeks became a blur. Yuki called in every expert she could find. Linguists, mathematicians, physicists. They worked in shifts, sleeping in the station's cramped bunks, eating freeze-dried meals without tasting them. The message was complex, layered with redundancy. Whoever sent it wanted to be understood. When they finally cracked it, Yuki felt her blood run cold. The message was not coming from one source. It was coming from thousands, all across a region of space 200 light-years wide. And every single transmission said the same thing: help us. The Kethrin Communion. That was what they called themselves. 17 different alien species living together in peace. They had been broadcasting into space for centuries, hoping to find others like them. Instead, they found death, the harvesters. That was what the Kethrins called the enemy. Machines that stripped entire planets bare. They consumed everything. Rock, water, air, and worst of all, living things. The Kethrins showed images in their message. Massive constructs descending on beautiful worlds. Green planets turning gray and then black. Cities crumbling. Populations fleeing. There was nowhere left to run. Why us? Marcus asked. He looked pale. They all did. Yuki pulled up the relevant section of the message. The translation was rough but clear enough. The Kethrins had detected Earth's radio signals decades ago. They had studied humanity from afar. They knew what humans were. What humans did? They say we are a violent species, Yuki read from the translation. Pre-contact. Dangerous. They have seen our history and our broadcasts. Our wars, our weapons. She paused, her throat tight. They are not asking for friends. They are asking for fighters. The message included technical data, schematics for faster-than-light travel, power generation systems centuries beyond Earth's technology, navigation charts showing the way to Kethrin space, and coordinates. Dozens of star systems under attack. There was also a warning. If we fall, you are next. Help us or die with us. The United Nations Security Council met in emergency session. Yuki watched the proceedings on a video feed from Neptune Station. Every nation on Earth had a representative there. Every voice was raised. This could be a trick, said the Russian ambassador. We have no proof these aliens exist. The mathematics alone prove the message is artificial, countered the American representative. Something sent this. Someone needs help. And if we go? Asked the Chinese ambassador. We take our warships to another star system and fight someone else's war? This is madness. The debate raged for hours. Some called it humanity's chance to join a galactic community. Others called it suicide. But one fact kept coming back. The FTL technology. The Kethrins had given humanity the stars. The question was whether humanity would use that gift to save them or just to save itself. The vote was close. 12 nations in favor, 9 against, 4 abstaining. Humanity would answer the call. Admiral Marcus Okonkwo received his orders 3 days later. He was to lead the expeditionary fleet. 12 warships, the newest and deadliest vessels Earth had ever built. 50,000 personnel, soldiers, engineers, medics, scientists. The best humanity had to offer. Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the carrier Victory as his fleet assembled in orbit around Mars. He was a tall man, 60 years old, with gray in his hair and scars on his hands from the resource wars. He had fought in the African conflicts. He had seen what humans did to each other when resources ran low. He knew exactly what kind of species humanity was. All ships report ready, sir, said his executive officer, Commander Liu. Okonkwo nodded. He opened a fleet-wide channel. 50,000 people waited for his words. We are about to do something no human has ever done, he said. His voice was steady, calm. We are going to travel faster than light. We are going to meet alien species. And we are going to fight a war that is not ours. He paused. The Kethrins asked for help because they think we are violent, dangerous. They are right. We are. But we are also the species that travels into the dark when someone calls for help. We are the species that fights not because we want to, but because someone has to. Today we become more than human. We become what the galaxy needs. The fleet jumped. Okonkwo watched Earth shrink in the viewport, the blue planet that had given birth to humanity. The world of wars and peace, love and hate, beauty and horror. He wondered if he would ever see it again. The FTL drive engaged. Space twisted. Reality bent. The stars stretched into lines and then vanished. They were moving faster than light. traveling through a universe that suddenly seemed much smaller. The journey to Epsilon Eridani would take 6 weeks. 6 weeks to prepare. 6 weeks to train. 6 weeks to decide what kind of saviors humanity would be. In his private quarters, Okonkwo reviewed the Kethran message again. He studied the images of the destroyed worlds. He read the desperate pleas for help. And he read the part that most people had missed. The part that had been buried in technical data. We know what you are. We know what you have done to each other. We are afraid of you, but we are more afraid of them. Please, we have no one else to ask. Okonkwo closed his eyes. He thought about his grandfather, who had fought in the wars of the 21st century. His grandfather had told him once that there were 2 kinds of soldiers. Those who fought because they loved war, and those who fought because they loved what war protected. Okonkwo had always been the second kind. He just hoped the Kethrans would understand the difference. The fleet moved through the darkness between stars. 50,000 humans traveling toward a war they did not start, toward species they had never met, toward an enemy they did not understand. But they were coming, and the galaxy was about to learn what it meant to call Earth for help. The human fleet dropped out of FTL into chaos. Alarms blared across every bridge as sensors came alive with data. Okonkwo gripped the arms of his command chair and watched the tactical display fill with contacts. Hundreds of them. Ships, stations, and something else. Something wrong. 3 planets in this system, Commander Liu reported. Her voice was tight. All 3 under attack. The main screen showed the view. Okonkwo had seen many terrible things in his life. This was worse. Massive black constructs surrounded the nearest planet like a swarm of insects. They were geometric. Perfect angles and smooth surfaces. Beautiful in the way a blade was beautiful. They descended in groups, landing on the surface. Where they touched, the planet changed. Green continents turned gray. Oceans darkened. The atmosphere itself seemed to dim. My God, someone whispered. Contact incoming, said the communications officer. Frequency matching Kethran specifications. Put it through, Okonkwo said. The being that appeared on the screen was not human. It had 4 arms, delicate and thin. Its head was wide with large eyes that reminded Okonkwo of a prey animal. Its skin was pale blue and covered in fine scales. When it spoke, the translator turned its sounds into words. You came, it said. The emotion in its voice was clear even through translation. Relief. Desperate, overwhelming relief. You actually came. I am Admiral Marcus Okonkwo of Earth's Expeditionary Fleet, Okonkwo said. We received your message. We are here to help. The alien's eyes widened. It made a sound that the translator marked as crying. I am Council Member Thessar of the Kethran Communion. We are dying. The harvesters have taken 8 of our worlds. 3 more are falling now. We thought no one would answer. Take me to your leadership, Okonkwo said. We need to plan. The Communion flagship was like nothing humans had ever built. It was a crystal structure that somehow held air and generated gravity. Light flowed through it like water. It was beautiful, peaceful, completely useless for war. The council chamber held representatives from 17 different species. Some had fur. Some had scales. Some were shapes that Okonkwo's brain struggled to process. They all looked at him with the same expression. Hope mixed with fear. Thank you for coming, said the council speaker. She was from a species called the Velen. She had 6 limbs and moved like a cat. We know what you are. We have seen your history. We know you fight each other, kill each other. But we need that now. We need violence. Show me the enemy, Okonkwo said. They showed him everything. Recordings of harvester attacks, technical scans, tactical data. The harvesters were machines, but not simple ones. They were biomechanical, part grown, part built. They absorbed matter and turned it into more of themselves. They learned. They adapted. But slowly. They are optimized for harvesting, said a Kethran scientist. Not for combat. We have defended ourselves successfully many times, but they always come back. More of them. Endless waves. We cannot keep fighting forever. Okonkwo studied the data with his tactical officers. They saw what the Kethrans could not. The harvesters fought like machines, predictable patterns, optimal solutions. They expected prey to run, not fight back. They had never fought predators. We can beat them, Okonkwo said. The council chamber went silent. You are certain? Asked the speaker. Isi Okonkwo pulled up a battle plan. Your ships are designed for exploration, for beauty. Ours are designed to kill. Your weapons are precise, surgical. Ours destroy everything in an area. You fight to minimize casualties. We fight to win. He looked at the council. You asked for warriors. This is what warriors do. The Battle of Kethros Prime began 12 hours later. The human fleet dropped out of FTL directly above the planet. Harvester constructs filled the space around them. Massive hulks that turned to face this new threat. They scanned the human ships, calculated threat levels, determined optimal response. They calculated wrong. All ships, Okonkwo said. Weapons free. The Victory launched its missiles. Hundreds of them. Simple chemical rockets with nuclear warheads. Crude technology by Kethran standards. Barbaric even, but effective. The first wave hit the nearest Harvester construct. The nuclear explosion vaporized a section of its hull. It tumbled, atmosphere venting. It tried to stabilize. The second wave hit while it was still reeling. Then the third. The Harvester construct broke apart. Target destroyed, Liu reported. She sounded shocked. Next target, Okonkwo said calmly. The battle lasted 6 hours. Human ships moved in ways the Harvesters did not expect. They took damage and kept fighting. They rammed when they ran out of ammunition. They used tactics that the Kethrans called suicidal. The Kethrans called them effective. When it was over, the space around Kethros Prime was full of debris. Harvester constructs floated in pieces. 3 human ships had been destroyed. 2 more were badly damaged. 5,000 humans were dead. The planet below was saved. Aboard the Communion flagship, Council member Thessar watched recordings of the battle. She had to stop several times. Her species had evolved from prey animals. Violence was not something they understood. Not on this scale. They destroyed Harvester units without hesitation, she said. They sacrificed their own ships. Their own people. How did they bear it? The council speaker watched with her. Her expression was unreadable. They are predators, she said quietly. Apex predators. We knew this when we called them. But to see it, Thessar made a sound of distress. They target the central processing cores. They know it kills the Harvesters most efficiently. They do not hesitate. They do not show mercy. No, the speaker agreed. They do not. Okonkwo met with the council after the battle. They thanked him, praised him, celebrated the victory, but he could see the fear in their eyes. The way they looked at him and his officers, like dangerous animals that might turn on them. You are troubled, Okonkwo said to the speaker. She hesitated, then nodded. You fight with such efficiency, such coldness. You lost 5,000 of your people. You do not seem to mourn. We mourn, Okonkwo said, but not yet. Not while the battle continues. He looked at the data displays showing other systems under attack. You asked us to come here and fight. To stop the Harvesters. That is what we will do. But you need to understand something. War is not clean. It is not beautiful. It is ugly and brutal and full of choices that will haunt us forever. We are willing to make those choices. Are you willing to let us? The speaker was silent for a long moment. We have no choice. Everyone has a choice, Okonkwo said. You can ask us to leave. Find another way. Take your chances with the Harvesters. And if we do, Okonkwo met her eyes, then your species dies. Maybe not today, maybe not this year. But eventually, the Harvesters do not stop. You know this. The speaker's shoulders slumped. Then we have no choice, she said again. Please save us, Okonkwo nodded. He left the chamber and returned to the Victory. In his quarters, he poured himself a drink. Water, not alcohol. He needed to stay sharp. Outside his window, crews were recovering bodies from the destroyed ships. 5,000 humans who would never go home. He raised his glass to them. To the dead. To the ones who would die tomorrow. To the ones who would survive and wish they hadn't. Welcome to war, he said quietly. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Harvesters received new data. They analyzed it, processed it, and adjusted their calculations. They had found something interesting. The galactic SOS reached Earth. What answered was not salvation 6 months. That was how long humanity had been fighting the Harvesters. 6 months of blood and fire and victory. 8 star systems liberated. Hundreds of Harvester constructs destroyed. The Kethran Communion was calling it a miracle. Okonkwo was calling it suspicious. They're learning, he said to his senior staff. They were gathered in the briefing room of the Victory. On the wall, tactical displays showed the latest battle reports. Look at these patterns. 3 months ago, harvesters would engage any target equally. Now they focus on our ships. They avoid Kethran vessels and go straight for us. Commander Liu nodded. We've noticed it too. They're also using new tactics, feints, ambushes, things we haven't seen before. Machines can adapt, said Major Elena Vasquez. She commanded the fleet's marine contingent. But this feels different. Like they're specifically studying us. They are, said Dr. James Kovach. He was the fleet's intelligence officer, a thin man with dark circles under his eyes. He had been studying harvester communications for months. I've been analyzing their transmissions. There's a language there, complex, very old. Okonkwo leaned forward. What are they saying? I'm not sure yet, but I'm starting to think the harvesters aren't just machines. They might be remnants of something older, something that chose to become machines. Before anyone could respond, alarms sounded. The Victory's AI spoke in its calm voice. Distress signal detected. UNSS Relentless requesting immediate assistance. Multiple harvester boarding parties detected. Okonkwo was moving before the sentence finished. Battle stations. Get me Captain Chen. The Relentless was a destroyer, smaller than the Victory but fast and deadly. Or it had been. Now it was drifting, its engines dark. On the screen, Captain Sarah Chen's face was covered in blood. They're inside, she said. Her voice was steady despite everything. Breach the hull in 4 places. We've sealed sections, but they're adapting to our defenses. We need reinforcement. Hold position, Okonkwo said. Help is coming. The Victory arrived 20 minutes later. 20 minutes that felt like hours. Vasquez led the boarding team personally. 50 Marines in powered armor, carrying weapons designed to function in zero gravity. What they found inside the Relentless was a nightmare. The harvesters had sent infiltrator units, not the massive constructs from space battles. These were small, fast, and intelligent. They moved through the ship's corridors like liquid metal. They killed efficiently, precisely, but Chen's crew had fought back. The corridors were painted with blood and machine fluid. Bodies floated in the zero gravity, human and harvester both. The crew had used everything. Guns, knives, their bare hands. Some sections had been deliberately decompressed, sucking harvesters into space. Other sections had been flooded with coolant, freezing them solid. Vasquez found Chen on the bridge. The captain had a makeshift bandage around her head and a plasma cutter in her hands. 3 dead harvesters lay around her. Captain, Vasquez said. You held. Chen looked at her. There was something in her eyes that Vasquez recognized. She had seen it in mirrors after bad fights. We held, Chen said. But they learned. Each wave adapted to our defenses. By the end, they were predicting our tactics. It was like fighting something that studied us while we fought. The Relentless was saved, but barely. 40% casualties. The ship would need months of repairs, and the crew would need longer. That night, Kovach finished his translation breakthrough. He called Okonkwo to his office and showed him the results. The harvesters are communicating constantly, Kovach said. Ship to ship. Construct to construct. I've decoded enough to understand the basics. He pulled up a translation on his screen. They're not just fighting us. They're analyzing us. Every tactic we use, every weapon we deploy, they record and study. Why? Okonkwo asked, though he thought he knew. Because they're not trying to defeat us. They're trying to understand us. Kovach looked pale. I found something else. References to previous species. The Kethrans aren't the first to call for help. Others have sent distress signals before. And others have answered. What happened to them? Kovach was quiet for a moment. The harvesters don't just consume resources. They consume information, knowledge, tactics. They're looking for something, and I think they might have found it in us. He pulled up another translation. This one made Okonkwo's blood run cold. Candidate species identified. Optimal aggression levels. Innovation rate exceptional. Recommended action. Sustained engagement for maximum data collection. Authorization granted for adaptive response. They wanted us to come, Okonkwo said quietly. Yes. The attack on the Kethrans was bait. They knew the Kethrans would call for help. They were waiting for someone like us to answer. Okonkwo stood and walked to the window. Outside, human ships patrolled the darkness. Good ships. Good crews. Fighting a war they thought they understood. Keep this quiet, he said. I need to think. But the next day, Kovac received another transmission. This one was directed specifically at the Victory. At Okonkwo, the Harvester Collective was speaking to him directly. Admiral Marcus Okonkwo of Earth, we acknowledge your presence. We acknowledge your capacity for destruction. You have provided valuable data. You will provide more. We thank you for the enrichment, the message continued. It was not a threat. It was worse. It was appreciation. Your species demonstrates optimal characteristics. Aggression paired with innovation. Willingness to sacrifice paired with adaptability. You are the first to damage our forces significantly. You are the first to interest us. Continue. We wish to learn more about humanity. Okonkwo read the message 3 times. Then he called an emergency meeting of the senior staff. We need to tell the Kethrans, Vasquez said after hearing everything. Tell them what? Okonkwo asked. That the enemy they asked us to fight was waiting for us? That every battle we win gives them more information about how we think, how we fight? We need to consider withdrawal, Liu said. If we're playing into their hands, we can't withdraw, Kovac interrupted. The Harvesters have our genetic signature now, our technological profile. If we leave, they'll follow us. Eventually, they'll come to Earth. The room fell silent. So we're trapped, Vasquez said. Fight and give them data or run and lead them home. Okonkwo looked at each of them. His people. His responsibility. There's a third option. We finish this. We don't just beat them. We annihilate them completely, no survivors. No data left to analyze. That would require total war, Liu said. No restraint. No mercy. Yes, Okonkwo agreed. It would require us to become exactly what the Harvesters think we are. Maybe worse. He stood. I need to speak with the Communion Council. They need to know what's really happening here. The Council did not take it well. You are saying this is our fault? Thessar demanded. Her voice was shrill with fear. We called for help and brought doom to everyone. No, Okonkwo said carefully. The Harvesters would have attacked you regardless. But yes, they used you as bait. They wanted someone like us to respond. Then you must leave, said another council member. Before you make it worse. We can't leave, Okonkwo said. They'll follow us. The only way forward is forward. The council speaker was quiet through all of this. Finally, she spoke. What do you need from us? Authorization for total warfare. No restrictions on weapons. No concerns about collateral damage. We hunt down every Harvester construct and destroy it. You are asking us to unleash you, the speaker said. Completely. Yes. She looked at the other council members. They looked back with fear in their eyes. Not just fear of the Harvesters anymore. Fear of humanity, too. Do it, the speaker said. Save us, whatever it takes. Okonkwo nodded and left. In the corridor outside, he found Vasquez waiting. We're really doing this? She asked. Yes, Okonkwo said. We are becoming the monsters they fear. Because sometimes the only thing that can stop a monster is another monster. And after? Vasquez asked quietly. After we kill them all. What do we become then? Okonkwo had no answer for that. The galactic SOS reached Earth. What answered was not salvation. 6 months. That was how long humanity had been fighting the Harvesters. 6 months of blood and fire and victory. 8 star systems liberated. Hundreds of Harvester constructs destroyed. The Kethran Communion was calling it a miracle. Okonkwo was calling it suspicious. They're learning, he said to his senior staff. They were gathered in the briefing room of the Victory. On the wall, tactical displays showed the latest battle reports. Look at these patterns. 3 months ago, Harvesters would engage any target equally. Now they focus on our ships. They avoid Kethran vessels and go straight for us. Commander Liu nodded. We've noticed it too. They're also using new tactics, feints, ambushes, things we haven't seen before. Machines can adapt, said Major Elena Vasquez. She commanded the fleet's marine contingent. But this feels different. Like they're specifically studying us. They are, said Dr. James Kovac. He was the fleet's intelligence officer, a thin man with dark circles under his eyes. He had been studying Harvester communications for months. I've been analyzing their transmissions. There's a language there, complex, very old. Okonkwo leaned forward. What are they saying? I'm not sure yet, but I'm starting to think the Harvesters aren't just machines. They might be remnants of something older, something that chose to become machines. Before anyone could respond, alarms sounded. The Victory's AI spoke in its calm voice. Distress signal detected. UNSS relentless requesting immediate assistance. Multiple harvester boarding parties detected. Okonkwo was moving before the sentence finished. Battle stations. Get me Captain Chen. The Relentless was a destroyer, smaller than the Victory but fast and deadly. Or it had been. Now it was drifting, its engines dark. On the screen, Captain Sarah Chen's face was covered in blood. "They're inside," she said. Her voice was steady despite everything. "Breach the hull in 4 places. We've sealed sections, but they're adapting to our defenses. We need reinforcement." "Hold position," Okonkwo said. "Help is coming." The Victory arrived 20 minutes later. 20 minutes that felt like hours. Vasquez led the boarding team personally. 50 Marines in powered armor, carrying weapons designed to function in zero gravity. What they found inside the Relentless was a nightmare. The Harvesters had sent infiltrator units, not the massive constructs from space battles. These were small, fast, and intelligent. They moved through the ship's corridors like liquid metal. They killed efficiently, precisely, but Chen's crew had fought back. The corridors were painted with blood and machine fluid. Bodies floated in the zero gravity, human and Harvester both. The crew had used everything. Guns, knives, their bare hands. Some sections had been deliberately decompressed, sucking Harvesters into space. Other sections had been flooded with coolant, freezing them solid. Vasquez found Chen on the bridge. The captain had a makeshift bandage around her head and a plasma cutter in her hands. 3 dead Harvesters lay around her. "Captain," Vasquez said. "You held." Chen looked at her. There was something in her eyes that Vasquez recognized. She had seen it in mirrors after bad fights. "We held," Chen said. "But they learned. Each wave adapted to our defenses. By the end, they were predicting our tactics. It was like fighting something that studied us while we fought. The Relentless was saved, but barely. 40% casualties. The ship would need months of repairs, and the crew would need longer." That night, Kovac finished his translation breakthrough. He called Okonkwo to his office and showed him the results. "The Harvesters are communicating constantly," Kovac said. "Ship to ship. Construct to construct. I've decoded enough to understand the basics." He pulled up a translation on his screen. "They're not just fighting us. They're analyzing us. Every tactic we use, every weapon we deploy, they record and study." "Why?" Okonkwo asked, though he thought he knew. "Because they're not trying to defeat us. They're trying to understand us." Kovac looked pale. "I found something else. References to previous species. The Kethrans aren't the first to call for help. Others have sent distress signals before. And others have answered. What happened to them?" Kovac was quiet for a moment. "The Harvesters don't just consume resources. They consume information, knowledge, tactics. They're looking for something, and I think they might have found it in us." He pulled up another translation. This one made Okonkwo's blood run cold. "Candidate species identified. Optimal aggression levels. Innovation rate exceptional. Recommended action. Sustained engagement for maximum data collection. Authorization granted for adaptive response." "They wanted us to come," Okonkwo said quietly. "Yes. The attack on the Kethrans was bait. They knew the Kethrans would call for help. They were waiting for someone like us to answer." Okonkwo stood and walked to the window. Outside, human ships patrolled the darkness. Good ships. Good crews. Fighting a war they thought they understood. "Keep this quiet," he said. "I need to think." But the next day, Kovac received another transmission. This one was directed specifically at the Victory. At Okonkwo, the Harvester Collective was speaking to him directly. "Admiral Marcus Okonkwo of Earth, we acknowledge your presence. We acknowledge your capacity for destruction. You have provided valuable data. You will provide more. We thank you for the enrichment," the message continued. It was not a threat. It was worse. It was appreciation. "Your species demonstrates optimal characteristics. Aggression paired with innovation. Willingness to sacrifice paired with adaptability. You are the first to damage our forces significantly. You are the first to interest us. Continue. We wish to learn more about humanity." Okonkwo read the message 3 times. Then he called an emergency meeting of the senior staff. "We need to tell the Kethrans," Vasquez said after hearing everything. "Tell them what?" Okonkwo asked. "That the enemy they asked us to fight was waiting for us? That every battle we win gives them more information about how we think, how we fight. We need to consider withdrawal," Liu said. "If we're playing into their hands, we can't withdraw," Kovac interrupted. "The Harvesters have our genetic signature now. Our technological profile. If we leave, they'll follow us. Eventually, they'll come to Earth. The room fell silent. So we're trapped, Vasquez said. Fight and give them data or run and lead them home. Okonkwo looked at each of them. His people. His responsibility. There's a third option. We finish this. We don't just beat them. We annihilate them completely, no survivors. No data left to analyze. That would require total war, Liu said. No restraint. No mercy. Yes, Okonkwo agreed. It would require us to become exactly what the harvesters think we are. Maybe worse. He stood. I need to speak with the Communion Council. They need to know what's really happening here. The council did not take it well. You are saying this is our fault? Thessar demanded. Her voice was shrill with fear. We called for help and brought doom to everyone. No, Okonkwo said carefully. The harvesters would have attacked you regardless. But yes, they used you as bait. They wanted someone like us to respond. Then you must leave, said another council member. Before you make it worse. We can't leave, Okonkwo said. They'll follow us. The only way forward is forward. The council speaker was quiet through all of this. Finally, she spoke. What do you need from us? Authorization for total warfare. No restrictions on weapons. No concerns about collateral damage. We hunt down every harvester construct and destroy it. You are asking us to unleash you, the speaker said. Completely. Yes. She looked at the other council members. They looked back with fear in their eyes. Not just fear of the harvesters anymore. Fear of humanity, too. Do it, the speaker said. Save us, whatever it takes. Okonkwo nodded and left. In the corridor outside, he found Vasquez waiting. We're really doing this? She asked. Yes, Okonkwo said. We are becoming the monsters they fear. Because sometimes the only thing that can stop a monster is another monster. And after? Vasquez asked quietly. After we kill them all. What do we become then? Okonkwo had no answer for that. The galactic SOS reached Earth. What answered was not salvation 1 year. 365 days of war. The human fleet had grown. Earth had sent 30 more warships. 300,000 more personnel. The military-industrial complex that humanity thought it had left behind in the 22nd century had awakened. Factories in orbit around Earth, Mars, and Luna worked day and night, building ships, building weapons, building an empire of war. The Kethrans watched in fascination and horror. They are transforming their entire civilization, Thessar said. She was watching a data feed from human space, civilian stations converting to military use, corporations retooling for weapon production. They have mobilized completely. They are efficient, the speaker said. There was no warmth in her voice. This is what they are, what we asked them to be. In the war zones, the human forces had changed too. The soldiers who had been fighting the longest were different now. Harder, colder. They moved with mechanical precision. They made decisions without hesitation. Some had stopped sleeping normally. They rested in shifts, always alert, always ready. And some had started modifying themselves. It began with Private Chen Li. She was part of Vasquez's Marine unit. During a boarding action, she had been injured by a harvester infiltrator. The medical team saved her, but part of her arm had been replaced with salvaged harvester technology, biomechanical components that interfaced directly with her nervous system. The arm worked better than the original. Within a month, 3 more soldiers had requested similar modifications. Not because they were injured, because they wanted the advantage. The medical staff refused. The soldiers did it themselves. Vasquez discovered it during an inspection. She found Corporal Jackson working on his own spine, integrating harvester neural accelerators. Stand down, Corporal, Vasquez ordered. Jackson looked at her. His eyes were different. Part of his visual cortex had been replaced with harvester optical sensors. With respect, Major, no. We've been fighting them for a year. We've seen what their technology can do. Why shouldn't we use it? Because you're making yourself into them. I'm making myself better, faster, stronger. I can fight them more effectively this way. Isn't that what we're here for? Vasquez wanted to argue. But she looked at Jackson's combat record. Since the modifications, his kill count had tripled. His reaction time was 50% faster. He had saved 6 other Marines in the last engagement alone. Report to medical, she said finally. If you're going to do this, do it safely. Okonkwo found out about the modifications a week later. He called Vasquez to his office. "How many?" he asked. 47 soldiers so far. More asking for approval daily. "And you allowed this?" Vasquez met his eyes. "They're adults. They're making informed choices. And they're right. The modifications work. We're more effective with them." Okonkwo was quiet for a long time. "What are we becoming, Elena?" "Whatever we need to be to win." The Kithrin Council learned about the human self-modification program and called an emergency session. They demanded Okonkwo attend. "This is an abomination," Thessar said. She was shaking. "You are transforming yourselves into harvesters. How are you different from them?" "We choose this," Vasquez said. She had come with Okonkwo. "The harvesters consume unwilling victims. We are volunteers modifying ourselves to fight more effectively. You are losing your humanity." "No," Vasquez said. "We are doing exactly what humans have always done. We adapt, we overcome, we survive." But the real shock came 2 months later. Major Vasquez led a special operations team deep into harvester-controlled space. Their mission was to capture a harvester hub intact, to study it, to learn its weaknesses. The mission took 3 weeks. When they returned, Vasquez called Okonkwo immediately. "Sir," she said, "you need to see this. The hub was ancient." That was the first thing the science team discovered. It had been in operation for over 100,000 years. The harvesters were older than any civilization the Kethrans knew about. Older than recorded history. The second discovery was worse. Deep in the hub's core, they found a museum. That was what Kovic called it. A collection of data on every species the harvesters had encountered. Thousands of them. Some the harvesters had simply observed. Others they had harvested. And a few, very few, they had invited to join them. "This is what they do," Kovic explained to Okonkwo. They were standing in the Victory's Intelligence Center, looking at recovered data. They don't just consume, they test. They push species to their limits. They see what they're capable of. And if a species shows enough potential, he pulled up files on 3 previous civilizations. Each had been aggressive, innovative, and violent. Each had answered a distress call from another species. Each had fought the harvesters with increasing desperation, and each had been offered a choice. They were invited to integrate with the Harvester Collective, Kovic said. To become part of something eternal, most refused. Those species were annihilated. But some accepted. Their knowledge, their capabilities were absorbed into the Harvester Collective. "We're being tested," Okonkwo said. "Yes. Everything we've done, every tactic, every innovation, every modification, the harvesters have been studying it. They're seeing if humanity is worthy. Worthy of what? Of joining them? Of becoming part of their evolution?" Okonkwo felt sick. "How long have you known this?" "I confirmed it today. But I've suspected for months." Kovic looked exhausted, haunted. "Sir, we have a problem. The harvesters have started moving. Not toward Kethrin space, toward Earth. The tactical display showed it. Harvester forces breaking off from the front lines, regrouping, moving in a direction that pointed straight at Sol system. They're not waiting for us to come to them anymore," Kovic said. "They're coming to us." Okonkwo immediately called for a fleet-wide conference. Every captain, every senior officer, the Kethrin Council was included. "The situation has changed," Okonkwo said. "The harvesters are moving toward Earth. We have perhaps 6 months before they arrive at Sol. We need to end this war before then." "How?" asked Captain Morrison of the carrier Defiance. "We've been fighting for a year. We've destroyed hundreds of their constructs. They keep coming back. Because we haven't found their origin point," Okonkwo said. "Every hub we destroy is just an outpost. Somewhere, there's a central nexus. A core, we find it. We destroy it. We end this. And if we can't find it?" asked Commander Liu. "Then we die," Okonkwo said simply. "Because I will not let the harvesters reach Earth. I will not let them test humanity like they tested the others. We end this, here now." The Kethrin Council was silent. Finally, the speaker spoke. "We never should have called you," she said. Her voice was soft, full of regret. "We thought we were summoning saviors. We summoned something else." "You summoned humans," Okonkwo said. "This is what we are, what we have always been. We fight, we adapt, we survive. And when something threatens our home, we destroy it, no matter the cost. Even if the cost is your own humanity." Okonkwo thought about the soldiers with harvester modifications. about the civilians back on Earth working in weapons factories, about what humanity was becoming to win this war. Yes, he said. Even then, Thessar stood up. Her hands were shaking. Then you are no different from them. You are monsters. Just like the harvesters? Maybe, Vasquez said. She had been quiet until now. But we're your monsters. You called us. You asked for this. You don't get to regret it now. The Kethrin Council left the conference in silence. Okonkwo watched them go. He knew what they were thinking. They had called for help and received something they could not control. Something that frightened them almost as much as the harvesters. They were right to be frightened. Sir, Liu said quietly, are we really going to do this? Hunt down the harvester nexus and destroy it completely? Yes, Okonkwo said. We are going to find their heart, and we are going to cut it out. And if they offer us the choice, integration? Immortality? Okonkwo looked at her. Then we refuse. And we burn them all. He hoped he meant it.